Road Racing. Today featuring the 1991 Ducati Score San Felipe 250. Brought to you by Ford and your Ford truck dealers. Ford trucks, the best, never rest. Yokohama tires. And Toyota and your Toyota dealers. I love what you do for me. Rugged Baja, Mexico, bordered by both the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Cortez. That means miles and miles of sunny, sandy beaches and some of the world's best fishing. Baja also means off-road racing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Score Off-Road Racing. We're in San Felipe, Mexico. I'm Steve Weiss. With me today, two-time defending heavy metal champion, Dave Ashley. Dave, from the driver's perspective, what's the strategy going into a race like this?
Well, I think there's 2 points. We've got to control ourselves long enough to get through some of the rough sections. We're going to be heading out right off the start. We're going into a cross-grain section that's real famous to off-road racers. It's called the beach run. It's sandy, it's whoop-de-doos, it's a lot of trees and bushes that you're going to be dodging. Everybody's hoping to get through that first 40-mile stretch, including us, with a car and a chassis that's whole so we can race the rest of the race and hopefully do well.
It's such a short race. How critical are the pit stops?
Well, I think everybody, including ourselves, we're going to be trying to do a 1 pit stop and get it done fast, as quick as possible. Just gas and go, and try to get out ahead of some of the dust. And if you can break free of that dust, that's the key to winning this race.
As the vehicles here in San Felipe prepare for technical inspection, we'd like to backtrack just a little and bring you up to date on what's happened so far this season on the Score HDRA Series. It began in late January in Parker, Arizona. Parker is located about 150 miles south of Las Vegas, and it's just about the same distance west of Phoenix, sitting on the banks of the Colorado River.
The race course runs east from town with each loop consisting of 115 miles. We'll be making the loop 3 times.
This is annually the kickoff event of the Score HDRA season, and so it attracts a big crowd. Contingency awards and prize money, of which this critter is not eligible to compete for, will exceed $300,000. We have 276 entrants. Last year's Parker 400 winners, Ivan Stewart for the 4-wheel vehicles, who is not here to defend his title, and Ted Honeycutt was last year's bike winner, and he is. In fact, Honeycutt is teamed with none other than Larry Rossler aboard bike number 660. Dave, I know you cut your racing teeth aboard a bike. Did you get a chance to challenge Rossler? Really the hottest rider on the circuit right now.
Well, Steve, I started racing motorcycles in 1968, but most of my racing was done in the Midwest. I really didn't cross paths with Larry very often. But I'll tell you what, he is a real factor in off-road racing today, and he's going to be a factor today.
Derek Payment, also on a Kawasaki, is one of the riders chasing Rossler early on. This is Garth Sweetland on bike 662. Dave, it looks like he spends as much time standing as he does sitting.
He sure does, and I'll tell you what, no human beings ever built a shock absorber that'll equal the legs of a motorcycle racer. He's moving along here, moving his weight fore and aft on the motorcycle to adjust the balance in the motorcycle. He can move around and make his weight part of the suspension instead of something attached to it.
Here's Mike Baker. He's leading Class 21. These bikes are a little smaller. No bigger than 250cc motors are allowed, and he has his Yamaha running real well through here. Also running flat out on a quad, this is Greg Rowe on a 250 Honda. Greg is from El Cajon, California. He's running to try and catch the class leader, John Herder. Meanwhile, the cars are staging right on the banks of the Colorado River, awaiting their turn to start. Notice the ribbons on each vehicle. Remember now, this is late January when the war has just broken out in the Middle East, and Saddam Hussein is not a very popular guy. Corky McMillan in car 101 will be first off the line, and there's always an advantage to that in off-road. It's a chance to stay out ahead of the dust. This is Robbie Gordon in car 105. Robbie's squeezing this race in between his IMSA and NASCAR commitments. And if you're wondering what it looks like at the start line from the driver's point of view, this is our in-car camera aboard Rob McCachran's full-size 2-wheel drive Ford truck. Dave, what are all of you guys doing right at this point?
Well, it's ignition on, fuel pumps on, start the engine, let's go. I tell you what, 30 seconds apart, and Rob's on the gas right now, turning the heater up, which is the throttle. It's going to make lots of engine heat now.
What kind of speeds are we talking about for this race?
Well, just now he's banging about 3rd gear, and he's going to be running in speeds on the pavement in excess of 120 miles an hour.
On the other end of that, what kind of speeds are we talking about on the bottom end?
Well, it's some of the slower terrains and Jeep trails and what have you. The vehicle may get down as low as 10 to 15 miles an hour.
So he'll be using both his brake and accelerator a lot in today's race. The bikes ran just 2 laps and are finishing as the rest of the field starts, and just as in 1990, it's Ted Honeycutt across the finish line first, bringing a win to teammate Larry Rossler. This was not easy, though, as the margin of victory over the second-place bike of Paul Krause and Garth Sweetland was just 1 minute and 17 seconds.
We play the dust game. It's get on a fast road, he would pull way out, and no choice but just to follow behind him. Finally, I started reeling him in a little bit on a road and broke off the road into a wash, and I got a good line and got by him finally.
We had really no problems. The bike worked well. We just didn't go quite fast enough at the end, I guess.
Back on the race course, this is the unlimited Class 1 buggy of Jerry Penhall, and he has quickly established himself as the first car on the road in his Raceco buggy. Now from our aerial camera, 105 is Jim Smith, and he figures if he's going to keep pace with Penhall, he's also going to have to fly as he slides by Corky McMillan and moves into second early on in the race. This is Robbie Gordon again, and as I mentioned, he'll race a very limited off-road schedule now that he's doing so well on the IMSA GTO circuit and also getting a crack at the big boys down south, NASCAR. This is Mark McMillan coming through the same area, and Dave, it looks like the buggy is really working here.
Well, it really is, and you can tell that he's working the brake pedal and gas pedal at the same time to get through this section. These guys really do their homework. I tell you what, the McMillans are a real force to be reckoned with out here, and Mark's doing real well.
This is Larry Ragland, the first truck on the road in his full-size Chevy. He's proven the truck is fast, but he's still looking for a solid finish with it. By the way, he won his class in this race last year in a mini pickup. And believe it or not, there's still another McMillan. This is Scott, also in Class 8. He debuted this Ford truck at last year's Parker and ran up front for quite a while. He eventually broke, and he's still looking for his first win in this class. 820 is Dave Ashley's Rough Riders teammate, Rob McCachran. And Dave, this is Rob's first race in the truck. What will he try to do?
Rob's a real veteran of off-road racing, although he hasn't raced in Class 8 yet. But I would say he's probably going to be real cautious through the first parts of this race, and he'll probably try to let the race come to him.
Let's take a look inside now with our in-car camera. You know, it should be a pretty good combination. Last year's mini medal champion and last year's Class 8 champion truck.
Between the two of us, we've got some pretty good accomplishments. I think with all the guys at Venable Racing, they're putting extra effort into this season, and with their help, we'll do real good.
Expectations will be high this year for the Venable team, and just to show you we really have this race covered, here's our TNN helicopter right on top of McCachran. That's Mel Kane of Skydance Helicopters at the controls, and the feet of our director of videography, Will Pupa, dangling out the side. Really kicking up the dust on this turn is car 1004. That's Ray Kroll behind the wheel. He's our leader in Class 10, which is limited to motors of 1650cc. One of 15 different car classes we'll try and sort out for you in our show. Running right behind Kroll in Class 10, this is Jim Pierce from Buckeye, Arizona, and it looks as if Jim is doing a little landscaping along the way today. Here's our first look at our co-host Dave Ashley. Dave, it's a new truck and a new class. Is it too early to start looking for that third consecutive heavy metal championship?
Well, Steve, I really don't want to jinx myself this early in the season, but we're looking for good things out of this truck, and I think we're going to win quite a few races this year.
Have you had much time in the truck prior to this race?
No, it was really a last-minute deal getting here. We worked really hard over the last 8 months to build this vehicle, and we're looking for good things down the road.
Here's a guy you'll be battling all year, defending full-size four-wheel drive class champion Rod Hall. He won the Parker 400 last year. And if things weren't tough enough, here's Steve Kelly in his Chevy.
Absolutely a fast class. These two guys have been the force in this class for the past couple of years. We're looking to move up and run with them.
Here's the Class 5 leader, the Unlimited Baja Bugs, and Wolfram and Hartmut Clauwater have at times nearly dominated this class, although last year was an off year as they didn't make all the races and won only one race. They are 1988 Parker class champions and look to have it dialed in once again. Gene Norman in 505 is about to take some silt in the face in pursuit of the Clawaters.
Yeah, and I'm sure Gene's real happy right about now to have a fresh air system with fresh air pumped into the helmet.
Class 5 1600 is for Baja Bugs, limited to 1600cc motors. Tom Neth is the leader. He's looking for a first-ever Parker 400 win. One of the real challenges will come from the longtime successful team of the Cook brothers, Wayne, Darrell, and Alan Cook. That's Wayne behind the wheel at the moment in car 553. Back in Rob McCachran's truck, and Dave, I'll let you explain the passing technique used in off-road racing.
Well, he's coming up on a truck here. He's going to give Dave's shop a little nerf. And Dave feels him right about now, and he's going to probably give him a chance to go on by. And there he is, moving over. Good clean pass.
8:01 is Brian Stewart, who finished second in the Class 8 points race last season to Robbie Gordon. Dave, let's see if you can help us figure out what happens as Rob McCachran gets too far over.
Well, Steve, it really looks like he's just being a little bit overly cautious coming into this corner here. And I know that's hard to believe, but when you're in one of these race cars, you've got to be on the throttle to get to make around a corner like that.
Well, at any rate, Dave Shop will grab that position back in Class 8. Notice he still has that Saddam Hussein bullseye intact, and a lot of folks don't realize that off-road racing contributed to the war effort. Here's a look at a piece of battle equipment called a FAB. With the top-end speed of 80 miles an hour and armed with a 50 caliber machine gun as well as shoulder-fired missiles, this Fast Attack Vehicle, or FAV, was just about the quickest, most maneuverable, and lethal vehicle the Allies utilized in the ground attack on Iraqi troops. Underneath it all sits a desert race car not all that unlike the buggies that have taken off-road drivers such as Bob Gordon and Mark McMillan to win after win in Baja, Mexico. Both types were built right here at the Cheneth Racing Products factory in El Cajon, California, where the primary focus is on race cars and recreational dune buggies.
Increase the radius on the backside of the hub.
In late January, company president Mike Thomas found out the Allies needed 8 FAVs complete with guns, computers, and sophisticated targeting equipment in just 2 short weeks. With the help of his own staff, plus nearly 24 volunteers from the off-road community, the buggies made it to the Middle East on time. Thomas picked up some fatigues and went along to make sure the conversion from race car to battle buggy was working.
In a race car, when the race is over, whether it be a 250-mile race or a 1,000-mile race, you can, of course, tear that car completely down and go through the motor and that, where in this application, of course, you don't have that luxury to do that. You know, you've got to have more longevity out of the vehicles.
Actually, Cheneth has been supplying the military with versions of the FAV for a number of years. They have been used extensively by Special Forces units, such as the Navy SEALs. With the cloud of secrecy that shrouds their operations, about the most you're going to get in any official statement is that they work.
It filled some gaps that we've been kind of concerned about for a long time. So obviously, that's why we picked it up.
The military won't say if or how many times the FAVs were sent deep into Iraq for quick strikes and reconnaissance even before the ground war started. But it is known they led the way into Kuwait City during the liberation. And perhaps most important of all, just as in a desert race, finishing is what really counts. Every one of the vehicles and its occupants survived the battle and came home without a scratch. Well, it's a battle out here today as we're now in the cockpit of Chuck Johnson's mini pickup. We'll be back to wrap up the Parker 400 before moving on to San Felipe, so stay with us. Dave Ashley, and this is defending mini pickup champ Manny Escara, making a move to stay out in front of his class here at the Parker 400.
Yeah, and I know Manny would really love to make this a win here because this is in front of the hometown crowd, and he's probably got as good a chance as anybody on these roads.
The off-road game of musical trucks continues. Scott Douglas moves from Class 6 with Rob McCachran's old truck to compete in the open mini pickup class while waiting for his new ride to be built. Again, we're looking through the front window of Chuck and Johnny Johnson's stock mini pickup, and as this Rough Rider moves in on a slower buggy, we're going to switch up top to our aerial camera for a better view of the action.
Yeah, he came right up on that buggy in one of the wider points in the course. No nerf, no nothing, clean pass, and he's on his way.
As for the fate of our other in-car camera, that's Rob McCachran expressing his frustration and his competitiveness still stuck on his side. On to the mini pickup four-wheel drive class where the Chevrolet of longtime off-roader Jerry McDonald is out in front. Jerry looking to break the stranglehold the Simons have had on this event for the past 3 years. Here is the truck of Paul and Dave Simon, defending mini pickup four-wheel drive champions. In fact, they're riding real high with 3-score Hydra Class season-long titles in a row and looking to start a run at a fourth here at Parker. 1603 is the buggy of Willie Malantka and the leader today of the class for single or two-seat buggies with 1600cc motors. Scott Reams is behind the wheel at the moment. Running second is Larry Martin in 1606. Larry finished 6th in the 1600 season-long standings last year and would obviously like to move up. 1609 is the buggy of Tom Burns, running third, and once again this is one of the largest classes represented with 39 entries in the 1-2-1600 class here at Parker. Another popular class is Class 9, buggies limited to 100 inches of wheelbase. 909 is Roy Prince, and he's making his way down one of the real bumpy spots on this course. He's followed by 913, Steve Poole.
You're right, Steve. This is really a rough part of the course, and these cars are limited to their suspension also. And I tell you what, these drivers are taking a heck of a beating through here.
Here's a class I have a lot of respect for, Class 11, the stock Volkswagens. You can bet leader Travis Howard also feels every single one of the bumps in the road. Here's our first look at the mini-mags. You'll recall we took you inside the Cheneth factory earlier in the show. All of the vehicles in this class were built the same so as to really test the driver's skill, and it appears as if Frank Bristing in 1204 is the better man today. He's leading the pack. This is the debut of Dan Smith in Dave Ashley's former Class 3 Ford Bronco. I think this is a good move for the Rough Riders. Ashley's truck has won 2 heavy metal championships with our co-host behind the wheel, and Smith is one of the finest desert motorcycle riders in history, although Dan tends to downplay his accomplishments.
You know, I'm a pretty green driver right now. I've got a lot to learn, and having a truck that's already figured out and working well is a benefit for me. I've also got a crew chief that's been with the truck for the last 2 years. He's co-driving with me, Mike Backhold, and I just can't say enough about how well the truck works and how much Mike helps me out there. Dave, you know Dan real well.
I sure do. A real champion in his own right in motorcycle racing. He brings a lot of enthusiasm to our team, and he's going to be a real asset.
Will it help the fact that he's had so much motorcycle experience?
Absolutely. A motorcycle racer can really read the terrain at high speed, and their lives depend on it out there.
Following Dan in the four-wheel drive short wheelbase class today is Dale White in his Chevy Blazer. Dale is from Las Vegas, Nevada, and is probably tired of chasing that truck no matter who is in it. One tragic note in this year's Parker 400, Mike Lund's co-driver Buzz Combe was killed in a racing mishap soon after we took this shot. We'll have more on Buzz later in our show. Still another of the Rough Riders, this is John Swift in his brand new Ford Explorer, passing one of the slower mini pickups, and he will be a force as he moves into Class 6. We talked with a couple members of his pit team, and they said they were surprised at the power this new car has. Class 6 is for production sedans, and this is Dan Ashcraft and his Bronco 2. Herzog Racing is in the process of finishing a new Explorer as well that they hope will give Swift a run for his money. Mike Leslie, another Class 6 newcomer, Mike and Swift have hooked up before since both competed in the four-wheel drive mini pickup class just a year ago. We're going to take a close-up look now at Robbie Gordon during this pit stop, and if you want to see some real off-road racing intensity, just watch and listen to both Robbie and Bob Gordon.
Robbie, you got her in the bag. Robbie, you made it 12 minutes, one loop. Wait a minute. Robbie, you got to clean it good.
Where's that other car?
Pinhole's out. We don't. You're in front of me. Your second car. Your second car.
Give me something to drink.
You're jumping the gas. What? That's what's in. Okay. Okay, let me time. Okay, these are on right now. Anybody check the lug nuts? Wait. No. Did anybody check the lug nuts? No. Hold on. Where's the lug nut? Don't let it go. Hold on. Don't let it go. Right there, Rob.
Bob had originally planned to take over the driving duties, but with everything going so well, he's decided to let Robbie try and finish the race. Things aren't going so well for Mac McLaughlin in his unlimited buggy. As you can see, he is sitting on his side, and it's a good reminder that any little mistake, and it will cost you.
I was coming around the corner a little too fast and hit a 4-foot hole and 2 or 3 barrel rolls, and here I am.
Sam Dunham in 1028 takes this corner a little wide, and Dave, that has to be a lonely feeling.
Boy, I wish this had never happened to me before, but it has, and I know he's probably pretty frustrated right now. He'll just have to take it easy and get out of there.
Bad luck has also struck our race leader, Robbie Gordon. That's not a nerve. Timmy Lee Pruitt is just helping Robbie get down the hill and out of the way. After coming from the back of the pack all the way to the front, Robbie is done for the day. And that's a good example of the slim difference between first and a DNF.
You know, we finally got up in front and I started backpedaling, and all of a sudden trans started making noise, and pretty sure it's transmission.
That opens the door for Jim Smith, who watched Robbie blaze by him but decided to wait things out, and that strategy will pay off as he now has clear sailing to the finish line. The sun drops quickly here in Parker, and racers will finish this one with the help of some headlights and what little moon you can make out through the dusk. Jim Smith wins his first ever Score HDRA event and says the key was sticking with his instincts.
Drive my race and not leave my game plan, and got up to Swansea, and Robbie was out of the car, and I said, well, I got a good shot at it now.
Mark McMillan finishes second overall, about 7 minutes slower than Smith's winning time of 6 hours, 33 and a half minutes. Mark's brother Scott wins the full-size two-wheel drive pickup class, only a minute behind Mark, and that is also good enough for a third-place overall finish.
Our plan was to come out here and run about 75%, just consistent, and run without a problem, because last year we were doing real good, but we had alternator problems. So we just came out to run consistently, and we thought we'd end up first, so we did it as planned.
Mike Juleson gets the glory of the checkered flag in Class 10, and teammate Ray Kroll says this win helps a lot.
Last year, we finished second here, and really gave us momentum going through going to the next race.
Willie Melankin takes home top honors in the 1-2 1600 battle and an 11th place finish overall. The Cloweters sew it up in the Unlimited Baja Bugs class, and that may be a bad omen for the rest of Class 5. It's Steve Kelly and his big Chevy first to the finish line in Class 4. And Steve's teammate Jerry McDonald finishes nearly an hour and a half ahead of the Simons and the rest of the four-wheel drive mini pickup class, and Jerry knows that means momentum.
There's nothing like starting off with a win, it just kind of gets everybody going and gets everybody in the right positive attitude, and so we're real happy.
Spencer Lowe from nearby Lake Havasu City wins the stock mini pickup class in his Nissan pickup. And Jerry Welchel in his Toyota closes in on second place to pick up some very valuable points in the first outing of the year. Rough Rider and Parker resident Manny Oscara wins the open mini pickup class and has no problem pointing out that he enjoyed the home court edge.
I think it's a tremendous advantage to me because, a lot of dust, and these loop races, of course, tears up a lot, so it creates a lot of dust, and being that I know where it's going, well, it's a big advantage.
So Larry Rossler and Ted Honeycutt on the bikes, and Jim Smith in his Class 1 buggy have the best overall times, as just half the field will finish the 1991 Score Parker 400. Let's move on now to Baja, Mexico for the Tecate Score San Felipe 250. And Dave, review for us quickly this race course.
Well, it's about a 219-mile course, and it's going to start and go north through the beach section and back around and into San Felipe.
Last year's winners include Brian Collins with some help from Jack Johnson, and Dan Smith's and Danny Hamill's motorcycle. As usual, it's the colorful bikes first off the line. And so off they go. 46 motorcycles and quads entered in this year's San Felipe race, and all of them early on will be chasing co-defending champ Danny Hamill on bike 661, who gets a little hang time on this jump. As we watch the next couple of bikes go through, Honeycutt and Sweetland, it looks like it would be tough to control a bike with this much air.
Well, it really is, but a motorcycle has a rear wheel that's a motorized gyroscope. You can control it with throttle and foot control. Tap the brake, the front end comes down. Screw on the throttle, the rear wheel drops. It's a real balance of eye, hand, feet coordination to make one of these motorcycles go fast across the desert.
620 is the defending motorcycle Score Hydra Points champion, Kenny Perry. Darren Sanford is from Class 21, bikes between 125 and 250cc. He's riding a Suzuki 250. Darren is from San Diego and tied for third in last year's point standings in this class. 468 is Dave Donatoni, also from Class 21. Dave is riding a 250 Honda. 854 is Rick Shirey, and Rick is from Class 40. Bike riders 40 years and older. It seems to me, Dave, that age would have to be a factor when it comes to taking a pounding like this.
As far as the pounding, it really is a pounding on these guys. But I'll tell you what, when experience comes down the line, these guys can ride.
879 is Richard Jackson. He's also from Class 40. 362 is John Brash, leading Class 20. He's racing through on a Kawasaki 125. And we were talking about age a minute ago. I hope Al Guzman won't take offense if we call him an old-timer competing in Class 50. Riders 50 years and older, Al is still very, very competitive on his Kawasaki. The brother team of Mike and Doug Roll are on the fastest-moving quad here at San Felipe. This is a 350 Yamaha Banshee, and this is Mike on the ATV at the moment. Class 24 is for the ATVs up to 250 cc's, and Greg Rowe, Bruce Carroll, and Carla Sturkow have established themselves as the front runners. This is Greg using the side saddle approach as he comes through the turn. Back to the start line in San Felipe, where the rest of the field is ready to go. Brian Collins is not here to defend his title, but his co-driver from last year knows the course well.
The course is really fast, but it's really hooped up. You know, you got big hoops on it, and they're really going to pound us all day. The speeds will be high, the time will be short for running the race, but it's going to take its toll on cars because it's really tough on cars. Hard pounding ride.
If Jack says it's going to be tough, you got to believe him. Like our co-host Dave Ashley, Jack has done it all: bikes, buggies, and trucks. We're looking at Bill Church in his new Chevrolet Class 1 truck, and here is Jack Johnson off the line in his new wide-body Class 1 vehicle.
This is Walker Evans on the starting line, ready to take off. And notice, Steve, we're starting on the pavement, but it's just a short stretch, and this is the last we'll see of the pavement until we make it back into the finish line here at San Felipe.
We're going to spend a moment at the famous Zoo Road intersection to see just who gets the most air. Most air by a buggy has to be Troy Herbst as he launches over the road here to the delight of the crowd. Dave Schopp in his Big 4 truck is definitely a contender with this effort. But it's going to be tough to beat this jump of Scott McMillan. And Dave, as we watch that again, take us through it.
Well, he's got some of the latest suspension technology out in off-road racing, and notice the truck doesn't even take a bounce when it hits the ground.
That is a plush ride. Dave Westham certainly gets some recognition for this jump at Zoo Road as he too catches some major air. This is Ron Brandt behind the wheel of Danny Lettner's Raceco, and he is establishing himself as an early front runner in the Ducati Score San Felipe 250. Frank Snook is in car 115. He too is running very well at the moment as he will take the wheel for the first portion of the race and then turn it over to partner Eric Arras to take it home for the finish. They'll both be looking over their shoulders soon when they hear the thunder from behind in the form of Walker Evans, who is running his big truck in the Unlimited class this season. If nothing else, it puts him out in front of a lot of the dust. Dave Larry Ragland has led the last 2 score races he's been in, and here he is again.
Yeah, Larry's a real hard charger, and I know he's really trying to push for the overall against Walker. But he's going to have some real contention from Rob McCackert in this Ford right here.
We'll be back to San Felipe in just a couple of moments, so stay with us. For off-road racing, Steve Weiss and Dave Ashley bringing you the Ducati Score San Felipe 250. Dave, I'm not sure whether it was Zoo Road or this beach section, but Scott McMillan's truck is beginning to show some wear.
Well, I would have to say it had to be the beach run. Those trees coming at you at 80 miles an hour, they look like ball bats. And I think it's taking some cosmetic damage to Scott's truck. But I don't think this is going to keep him from winning the race.
You talked about the importance of pit stops earlier. Well, one of our race leaders, Danny Lettner, has a very big one coming up.
Everything has to be 100% coordinated. We're going to gas, and we're going to make the drivers change. Hopefully, we'll make the drivers change, and we'll be way ahead of putting the gas in.
So as stock car veteran Danny Lettner pulls his helmet on, we'll sit back and watch what happens.
Take this, loop it around the spare tire deal and over the tire, you know what I mean? Okay. Because I think that's what's wrong. Here he comes. Wake up. Wake up. Yeah. Right here. Give me the back of the stuff. Doing good. We'll run in a second. Everything working for JC? Power steering. What's wrong with it? I don't know. We lost it. I'm going to put a belt on if that's the problem. Henry, you ain't going nowhere without power steering. No? Well, can you fix it? Yeah, just a minute. Relax. Belt on it. So are you going to run without it? Well, sure I'm going to run. I came from 3 poles. We've come 15 miles and went out like that.
Can he finish without the power steering, or what are you guys going to do?
Yeah, I think Dan can get it back to here. If he's too tired, I'll try and jump back in it and finish the last 50 miles. We'll keep going now.
Apparently, Lettner will give it a try without the benefit of his power steering. Nothing wrong with this guy's truck. Walker Evans is now the first car on the road. And Dave, can you just kind of sense when you see somebody go by that they are really running well?
Wow, what a feeling for Walker to be out ahead of this dust right now. He knows that he's got a real chance at the overall when he's running in dust-free air all the way to the finish line.
Well, he's going to keep pushing, and I'm sure the same thing could be said about Larry Ragland and his Chevy truck, as he also continues to keep pace.
Ragland's really on the gas here, and I know he knows he's got a shot at catching Walker, and he's going to give it everything he's got all the way to the finish line.
So Larry Ragland also looking for the overall, as is Rob McCachran, right in the money. Rob only 25 years old. He's already packed in quite a career, winning his first motorcycle race at the age of 8, moving into a buggy at 16, and winning the Score HDRA Mini Medal title the last 2 years. Here's Scott McMillan still banging that truck of his around, still taking the most direct route he can find, which often means up and over anything in the way, as Scott manages to find some more air. Speaking of air, how's this for a production sedan? That's John Swift's Explorer up and over Zoo Road. Here's a slow-mo look at his closest pursuer, Mike Leslie, in 619. And Don Adams may look like he's taking a conservative approach here, but here's a closer look at a veteran who knows how to save his equipment and win races. It's about as peaceful and picturesque a setting as you could possibly find. Just north of Salida, Colorado, is the 300-acre ranch of off-road veteran Don Adams. A winner of 12 Score and Hydra season championships in 3 different classes, he's as modest as they come when you ask him how he's done it.
Well, I'm not too sure. I guess if you hang around long enough, you're bound to win one sooner or later. No, I don't think so. I think it's just that after you do it so long, you do learn some of the tricks of the trade, so to speak.
He's probably off-road's most genuine veteran. Don has been racing for more than 30 years on motorcycles, in sports cars, and pre-Baja Jeep races that eventually led him to the Score HDRA series. These days, when he's not in the desert, he's climbing hills, little old hills like Pikes Peak. He's managed back-to-back Colorado Hill Climb Championships and the 1989 Hill Climb Person of the Year Award.
Leave the thermostat out and just run the restricted point.
Okay, I think it'll work better anyway.
An aggressive schedule keeps Don and Chief Mechanic Jeff Kaiser in the garage, but not to the point that Don ignores his other passion, buffaloes. He raises dozens of the huge animals on his ranch, and it's landed him a mountain man image he doesn't mind one bit. Don, what's so special about living here in Colorado?
Well, I think here in this valley, you're looking at 13,000-foot peaks all the way around, you know, and you just get used to that, and who wants to be anywhere else?
Can you imagine moving anyplace else?
No, I don't think so. There's other places probably nice, but I don't think it would be any nicer than it is here.
Don's son, Doug, is 18. Daughter, Tracy, is 14. They're probably a little more interested in Dad's race trucks than his choice of livestock, but they apparently are willing to accept both.
I guess I started in this just by the simple fact I got tired of the cattle business and felt like it was a little more unique to get involved with the buffalo, and it's turned out to be it's as much a hobby as anything, but it's still an interesting animal.
Don, it looks like hunting is also obviously a big part of your life.
I guess you could say that, yeah. We got most of these right here in this valley, and some of them are right on the place. The antelope and the elk and the badger and the beaver all came from right around here, and then of course the buffalo came from right here on the place.
Some of these trophies look like they were tough to get, but surely no more difficult than the room full of off-road awards and memories Don has accumulated over his long career. 30 years ago, Don Adams thought it might be fun to do a little racing. He's still willing to put in the long hours and hard work it takes to stay at the top, and that's kind of appropriate for off-road's mountain man. A special thanks to Don Adams for letting us visit his beautiful mountain home. Back to racing, where Steve Kelly is really setting a quick pace in the full-size four-wheel drive race. He'll need to, because despite Willie Valdez's mini pickup that's between them, our co-host Dave Ashley is coming on hard.
It's been a conservative race up until this point for us, but our Rough Rider radio channel has been telling me where I'm at the whole way in relation to Steve Kelly.
Running behind Dave at the moment is the Ford of Timmy Lee Pruitt. Timmy coming off perhaps his biggest career win. He took Class 4 at the last Score Hydra event out, that being the Nissan 400 in Las Vegas. Let's check in now on Class 9, the short wheelbase buggies, where last year's defending Class Points champ, Rich Richardson, is still the man to beat. Some tight traffic here as Alex and Jose Malero are being chased through this corner by Art and Armando Tiznato. Car 912 sponsored by Mike's Sky Ranch near here, and the Tiznatos usually are a factor in these Baja races. Also running very well, 914, that's Kevin Conlon, who brings his single-seater in from Colton, California. Here are the Unlimited Mini Pickups. 701 is Roger Mears, and a lot of race fans may have forgotten just how successful of an IndyCar career Roger had going when he decided to go off-road racing full-time in 1984. Class 7 newcomer Scott Douglas continues to prove he can be very competitive, finishing second at both Parker and the Nissan 400. He's running second again. Also in the hunt, our Parker winner and defending San Felipe 250 class champion, Manny Esquera. Simon and Simon are leading the way in the mini pickup four-wheel drive class. That's not unusual. What is unusual is that Paul and Dave are still looking for their first class win of 1991, having been shut out by Jerry McDonald 2 races in a row. Darren York is running second, and Dave, what's the deal with his front wheels?
Well, it looks like a broken or collapsed front spring there, but I know he's going to make it to a pit stop here, and he's going to fix that, and that should not put him out of the race.
Terry Brown behind the wheel of 721 is the first stock mini pickup on the road. We shouldn't mislead you, though, with the word stock. Not very many stock pickups with a price tag of $100,000 or $200,000. This is definitely a race truck, but the class does have some limitations. Running second is our Parker winner, Spencer Lowe. He is really pushing his truck to keep up with the pace established here at the San Felipe 250. And Jerry Welchel in 721 is not about to lose sight of the dust of the leaders. He's helping to make this class really the closest battle of the day. These cars just seconds behind each other. Having a lighter bike in this terrain.
Really no real weight advantage, but maybe a little bit on the throttle response. The 250 doesn't react quite as harshly when you screw on the throttle.
As for our four-wheel leaders, Walker Evans, still the man to catch. Eric Harris, now behind the wheel in car 115, is also right there, but watches. Class 8's Larry Ragland has caught up, and because Larry left the start line later, he actually is ahead of Harris on time and about even with Walker, so he's moving in on first overall. It's the same story with Rob McCachran since he also started later. Rob doesn't have to pass Ragland, but must finish within a couple of minutes of him because of the staggered start. Ragland was the second Class 8 off the line, Robbie the sixth. Another familiar face running very well today. 110 is our winner of the Parker 400, Jim Smith. He's been near or in the lead for a good part of the race. Big trouble for this Unlimited buggy driven by Bernie Mayer. He apparently had a problem with his fuel line or cell, but according to eyewitnesses, managed to get out under.
We lost sight of this car from about maybe a quarter mile down the road. And as soon as it went off the road, it started putting up the black smoke.
Lisa Dickerson and Scott Cameron, coming out of the dusk here, have teamed up in their Unlimited Baja Bug and have moved up through the pack, putting some distance between themselves and the Clowiters. Wolfram and Hartman are running a strong second, coming off their wins at Parker and at the Nissan 400. It's beginning to look like a replay of the 1989 season. Mike Jacobson and Ron Drakovic in 548 are running in the third spot. Tom Neth is out in front of the rest of the 1600cc Baja Bugs, but this too will be a close class battle as we have the same 2 cars out in front. That would mean the Cook brothers are in the vicinity, and after finishing second to Neth and Parker and then winning the Nissan 400, they are on a bit of a hot streak. A little further back is the defending class champ Rich Virtue, who at the moment is battling the four-wheel drive mini pickup of Darren York, who does seem to be moving well again. Class 10, you'll recall, is for the 1650cc buggies. Tom Denault has moved into the class this season. Tom was the 89 overall point champion in a 1-2 1600 buggy. He's being chased by Steve Serapis, who also brings outside experience to this class and says he's quite comfortable here in Class 10. He can't be too comfortable at the moment because Tom Schilling is really breathing down his neck coming down the mini summit. 1607 is the 1600cc class leader. That would again be Willie Melankin, who is looking at putting together back-to-back score event wins in 1991. He's got about a 5-minute lead on the rest of the class. Running second, the Raceco buggy of Mike McClune and Joe Valentine. They're from opposite ends of the country. Mike from California, Joe from New York. John Marking and Scott Reams are sharing the driving duties in this Jimco single-seater. And once again, the Unlimited buggies and this class, the 1600cc buggies, are the 2 biggest classes here, accounting for almost a third of the field. Why are these classes so popular, Dave?
Well, this is one of my favorite classes, and I'll tell you why. The rules are written so that these cars are fairly equal. They get a lot of numbers out here, and these cars run within seconds of each other all the way to the finish line. It's really a great class.
It is also one of the more visual classes for us with all the bumping and grinding that goes on in every single race. To the air now as Kurt LeDuc in 349 is having a big day in the short wheelbase four-wheel drive class as he slips by the unlimited buggy of Bob Land here to establish himself as the front runner in Class 3. Dale White, after a second at Parker and third at the Nissan 400, is running well again today. And as we take a look at Mike Lund's Nissan, we want to take a moment to pay tribute to Mike's former co-driver.
His name was Raymond Combe, but to racers and friends, he was known simply as Buzz. The spot of his tragic death at the Parker 400 while co-riding with Mike Lund will be remembered thanks to score officials. For Lund and the rest of Buzz's race team, the question was whether or not to even continue racing.
I had a lot of support with a lot of people. There was a lot of people that were close to me that were involved with this, and we all talked and decided, do we want to go on with this? And we know that Buzz would want us to go on.
Lund's team decided there could be no better way to honor the Bill Stein engineer who loved off-road racing so much than to try and pull off a win in Buzz's name at the next race, the Nissan 400. It was a perfect day for the Class 3 truck.
You know, there were so many people that had so much hope for us to win. I think that just the will of all the people that were involved in it would have motored us around that course, and we just had to sit there.
And of course, our best wishes go to Buzz's wife, Ferry, and the rest of his family. This is Dan Smith moving into contention in the Class 3 race. We'll be back for the exciting finish. Stay with us. Today, Dave Ashley, who we are watching below with the benefit of our special nose mount camera. You get a real sense of the dust that's kicked up in Dave's face as he tries to slip by. Meanwhile, the first bikes have now reached San Felipe, and no surprise here, it is Larry Rossler once again.
This track this year is really fast, choppy, a lot of rocks, pretty demanding. You know, actually it's really demanding on a motorcycle. It's a handful.
Again, it's Sweetland and Kraus in second, a 1-2 finish for Kawasaki. Darren Sanford wheels in on his Suzuki, first in Class 21 and third overall.
We just kept working away. We lost some time at the start, but then we knew the bike would hold up, and we started making up time from there.
The fastest quad belongs to Mike and Doug Roll, averaging 46 miles an hour. Meanwhile, still on the course, this is the Mini-Mag leader, Larry Plank, in 12.99. And there's trouble brewing in the main pits where Mike Leslie's and Paul Simon's trucks have both suffered extensive damage following a collision in the dust. Mike says a spectator or pit worker stepped out in front of him.
I slowed down and slid sideways right there, and Paul Simon was right behind me and ran into me. It was one of those things, either run into somebody or stop, and I stopped. Coming down the pits, this wasn't a scheduled pit for our team. Mike Leslie apparently overran his pit and was backing up the course. You know, I know going wrong ways on the course is wrong. I don't know about backing up. I guess that's okay. But ran right into him. Never seen him.
Obviously a difference of opinion on the events there, and probably the same story here as Dave Weston's truck, driven by Randy Salmont, is now a piece of Mark Fry's buggy. In that close stock mini pickup battle, Jerry Welchel is now the main pursuer of the Brown O'Brien team since Spencer Lowe has dropped back with axle problems. Jerry and his Toyota Yokohama race truck. Chuck and Johnny Johnson are running third in the class, but Johnny tells us he's having some problems.
We're doing fine. We're plugging along. We have a little trouble. We're geared a little tall, so I'm having to wind a lot higher than I wanted. Can't get in high gear and kind of got to run it in second a lot.
If nothing else, maybe Johnny will get a little extra time to enjoy the sights of Baja and this San Felipe area. San Felipe was settled as a fishing community in the 1920s, and the Gulf waters continue to return many a fisherman home happy. But these days, it's much more than just a sportsman's paradise. The colorful Mexican culture on display attracts a steady stream of visitors. Hotels here do a brisk business at poolside. The town is a favorite of tourists who find it sunny, affordable, and full of nightlife, from discos to a wild ride on a mechanical bull. San Felipe attracts a mix of visitors in search of recreation along its long sandy beaches. Of course, it's a boom town each time a score event is in the area. Seemingly undisturbed, the friendly locals go about their business, although the financial impact cannot be ignored.
Here on the beach and the town, this is good business.
San Felipe's future looks very bright. It's an area selected by the government for resort development. A major new project called El Dorado Ranch along the coastline north of town promises to attract even more visitors and permanent residents to this once sleepy little fishing village.
The first driver welcomed back into San Felipe is Walker Evans, and that assures him the Class 1 Unlimited title. But it won't be enough for the overall title because we have to take the staggered start into account. That honor will go to Larry Ragland, who finishes in a record-setting time of 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 51 seconds, almost 62 miles per hour. That's faster even than the best times posted by the bikes, so Larry truly is the overall winner of this year's race.
We've been coming really close. The Chevys led we led the Baja 1000 overall, we led Parker overall. It came real close, and just some little things kept putting us out. Finally, we put it all together.
Rob McCachran arrives a little more than 3 minutes later, and that will place him second in the two-wheel drive pickup class, as well as second overall, dropping Walker Evans to third.
I just had one flat tire and a little bit of carburetor problems, and we were parked for just a little while, but that's what did it. Can't be parked in a short race like this.
In some of the other classes, Tom Schilling and Jim Beeson are crowned the winners of Class 10, finishing 8th overall. Lisa Dickerson and Scott Cameron hold off the field for a big win in the Unlimited Baja Bug class and 9th overall.
We stopped for fuel, changed drivers, that was it. No flats, nothing. It was great.
Kurt LeDuc finishes first in Class 3 and 12th overall, providing a win for the Mike Leslie race team. Willie Melankin enjoys a 7-minute victory margin over the rest of the 1-2-1600 competitors, and that also ranks him 13th overall. Roger Mears gets his first win of the 1991 campaign, and the veteran is quite happy about it.
With the new rules for the season this year, the truck's a lot faster. And gosh, it really makes it fun for me, I'll tell you.
And that great stock mini pickup race continues right up to the checkered flag with Brown O'Brien across first.
Unbelievable. Believe me.
This is close. They're coming in. What's that mean to you guys? You guys got it, or is it going to be close?
Well, we got, I think, is that Winchell?
Yeah.
Not enough. I think we probably got second.
He's 721, I'm 727. I never got by him. Been in his dust all day, so it's just one of those things where it's by time, and I hope we got him this time.
He did. And we didn't jinx our co-host, Dave Ashley. He wins Class 4, although I know it wasn't easy.
Well, we did have a few problems along the way, but all in all, the truck ran really well. I can't thank my crew enough. They put this truck together and got me to the finish line. I tell you, it's something else to be here and finally get my first win under the belt in Class 4.
Congratulations, Dave. Martin Garibay from Ensenada, Mexico takes the win in the stock VW class. And John Swift is the only member of the production sedan class to make it back to San Felipe in one piece.
Nothing's easy, especially in Mexico. You got to work for what you earn, and we earned today. The team did, the whole crew. They kept me going all day long.
As we head to break, once again, it's Larry Ragland, the 1991 Tecate Score San Felipe 250 winner. Various class winners, we'd like to thank you for your help.
Thanks, Steve. On behalf of PF Goodrich and Ford, I would like to thank you for letting me co-host the show with you.
Our next broadcast Sunday, July 14th, the world-famous Baja 500. We'll see you then.